This is from Ryan Navaroli, and he's asking you. He says, one thing I'd like to hear is if he's dealt with many critics about his playing and how he persevered through any negative comments and stayed focused on his career. So, I'm sure you haven't had any negative comments at all, but if you had,
none. Absolutely 100% no. I've only had negative comments. Are you kidding me? That's unbelievable. It's like, I have a good story. My mom she's been passed for 15 years, but one time this critic named Don Heckman, who I think has passed as well, but he was the jazz critic for the LA Times. I grew up in Los Angeles. And so, boy, this guy just wrote, I did some gigs somewhere, and he wrote a review, and I mean, it was brutal. It was like kind of personal too. It wasn't just, I don't dig this guy's music, but others did. So, Go figure. It was just kind of like he just took every opportunity to just dig and cut. My mom wrote a letter to the LA Times that was published refuting. It was great. It was like,
that's amazing.
Why I need to be so mean to my son.
That's what moms do. That's what moms do.
Yeah. She got a good Mother's Day present that year, but no. In answer to was Ryan, right?
Ryan, yeah.
The guy. You can't do anything for critics. You got to do stuff for you. And I mean, I've sort of sometimes it hurts, and it's sometimes not very easy if somebody writes something bad about you. And now we're in a situation with social media where it doesn't need to be a critic. It could be fans or haters or whatever. I mean, people just feel very free to say whatever the hell they want, and and then walk away from it. But words sting, and so I can understand that if you've had some negative comments about your musicianship, it sometimes hurts. So, but you can't do it for anybody else. You got to find the joy in it for yourself, and know in your heart that you're doing what you do. Like, for me, I never make music for critics. I make music because that's the music that comes out of me. And I think that people, when they say, well, he plays smooth jazz because smooth jazz could be, well, you can make more money playing smooth jazz, or it's more accessible and there's bigger dollars or fan bases or whatever. I mean, it's like, no, I just make my music, and it just happens to fall into that world that is now considered smooth jazz. And even that term has been so, oh my God, for the longest time, that term has been really maligned by musicians for a good reason, because it doesn't describe anything. It's a radio format. It's not a style of music. So for the longest time, people like me or Rick Braun or even David Sanborn or Bob James, or we get that moniker of we're smooth jazz artists, and people immediately just see the term and they go, I hate that. I hate that artist because he's smooth jazz, and smooth jazz is kind of, it's especially by the jazz police, people that are more purists. They listen to the music and they go, oh yeah, this is lightweight. This is bullshit. And I think for some it is, but for me, it's the music that I make. It's very authentic. It's because it comes out of me. It's not planned. It's not, I don't sit in the room and kind of figure out what I can do to make more money or get a bigger audience. I'm just truly making the music that comes naturally to me. So Ryan, if you do that, you're going to be okay. And so forget the critics. Just make music that feels good to you.
Yeah, I mean, even the musicians you just named, they're all heavyweights on their instrument, or one of my personal favorites is George Benson. And no one can say he's not a killing guitar player, but a lot of his stuff would be considered or fall under the realm of smooth jazz, and that style he was making for a while. So, there's a lot to a musician more than just whatever genre they get thrown under, whatever category.
And Benson, I bet Benson would answer that question probably similar to the way I answered it, which is he's not. I mean, maybe there was a time. I think that I heard a story one time that it was Tommy LaPuma that found out. Tommy LaPuma, the great jazz record producer, who produced a lot of those albums. That initially George Benson was a a straight ahead guitarist. He was making pretty really like jazz albums, and somewhere along the way, Tommy heard George sing and then pushed him, saying, "Hey, like if you sing and play guitar, then we could really open you up to another audience." And George said, "Well, okay, let's try it." And that's where he had his breakout success. But you got to love a pop star like George Benson or a pop star like Al Jarreau was. These are guys that had their toes in multiple genres, and they lived in those genres very comfortably. And it didn't feel like, if you were the pop fan of George Benson, you claimed him as yours. But if you came from the fan of being crazy about his guitar playing, then you could also feel that he was yours. So those guys were masters at being able to kind of surf multiple genres and make their fans that came from those different genres feel special.
Well, that's exactly it, because like Benson always sounds like Benson, whether he's doing his straight ahead jazz or his smooth jazz or his he was on a track of the Gorillaz band recently, and like it's Benson immediately. Like in the background there's just like some guitar and you're just like, it has to be him. And so I think that's kind of what you're getting to, like, whether you're playing your own stuff or you're playing with Corey Wong or you're playing with Wolfpack or any of these things, like you're going to sound like Dave Koz because that's how you're approaching the music, not like I'm going to play smooth jazz or, as a jazz person, like I'm going to play jazz. So that means I play melodic minor and I swing in this way and I do this and it's a totally different mindset.
I remember melodic minor. I haven't thought about that term in a very long time, but it's now coming back to me.
Yeah. This is where all our jazz musician purists just turned off.
We're just trying to throw them a hook.
Yeah.
Melodic minor.
Yeah.
Yeah, throw in a Lydian and mix a Lydian, and I remember those terms too. I haven't used them in a long